Obsession is the directorial debut of Curry Barker. The guy he was had basically done only one film prior to this, which he had released on his YouTube channel called Milk and Cereal. I hadn't checked that back I prior to this, so this was kind of like my first real experience with him. And yeah, after seeing this film, I will certainly be checking out Milk and Cereal because yeah, this movie just kind of like shook me to my core. I gotta say, and to the point where this is going to be a really tricky review to do because I'm going to try and keep this as broad and as non-spoilerish as I can. I will basically be doing a follow-up video here where I will basically be talking about specific plot points and what I kind of like made of them and all of that because yeah, I'm just kind of like bursting to say certain things that are a lot about this movie which I have to admit here. But yeah, basically, and this is a movie that I went in not really knowing anything about. It's a movie that really crept up on me from nowhere. It was a movie that I hadn't really seen any TV spots or trailers from anywhere. My only real first first impressions of it was basically when I had come across various stuff on online about it and the kind of like the little buzz that it was generating. So yeah, I kind of like so I was basically avoiding all kind of like reviews and stuff like that because I kind of like wanted to go into this as blind as I could, and I feel like that's the best way to go into this movie. So yeah, but basically just from the title, I kind of like had a little bit of a vague idea of what we kind of like might be sort of entailing here, but I didn't really have any idea of how it was all going to come together and how it was really all going to really look. So yeah, basically, but yeah, a brief plot synopsis here is that we basically have a guy called Bear, played by Michael Johnson. He basically plays a really kind of like shy, socially awkward, timid guy. He's basically had this crush on this girl called Nikki, which is kind of like carried on for a long time since childhood, I believe. So he's carried these feelings around for this girl for a long time and never really, because he'd been so like timid and stuff, he's never really kind of been able to pluck a courage up to kind of like tell her how he feels. So it basically then he essentially ends up in this kind of like a new age store where they're kind of like selling like healing crystals and healing stones and stuff like this. Here he basically comes across this like little like make a wish kind of stick, which basically he essentially buys, and it's kind of like a one time thing where basically you make a wish, you snap the stick in half, and so yeah, basically because he's never been able to pluck the courage up to tell her, he basically just kind of like gets this make a wish stick. He kind of like breaks in half. We're making the wish that Nikki falls in love with him and loves him more than she loves anything else. And lo and behold, the wish comes true. But then we basically have this kind of like monkey's paw kind of tale of obviously being kind of careful of what you wish for, because suffice to say, things go very, very bad. So yeah, basically what I really like appreciated about this film, there was so much about this movie that I actually really appreciated. So for one, I feel like that this, without saying too much, I feel like what that this movie is one of those movies where I feel if you go into it and you kind of like turn your brain off and you kind of just go with it and you kind of take everything the synopsis that kind of like happens at face value, it will kind of like look like very much one thing. And then I think once you kind of get into the real underbelly of it all, you find out that it's actually about something completely different, or there's a completely analogies that you can make that completely contradict with kind of like what you're seeing at face value. I felt like the atmosphere, the tension, the was just fantastic. I thought the music here was really effective. Where it basically the music just like the directing choices here. The music is really quite calming, but it's also just kind of like just off enough to kind of make you feel uncomfortable, and that's really what this movie does as well. And it's just so that there's just so many moments in here where it's very feels because it's very much focused a lot between Bear and Nikki in this relationship, and it's like so you spend a lot of time with these two. We basically find we it. There's so many like little spots where it's just very simple everyday stuff where it can basically just be somebody like turning off the shower, and just because of like the context in which it happens and the kind of like intentions behind it, it just ends up being so tense and so atmospheric, and this movie does that so fantastically. I think another real like big prop has to go to the actress who plays Nikki here, that Inda Neveretti, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But she is basically just a real standout here. I mean, I think everyone does a great job, but I think that she is absolutely the standout here. And obviously, because she's kind of the focal point of the very film, really how effective it is and how much it succeeds or fails really hinges a lot on her shoulders. And she just absolutely pulls it off so fantastically. It's such a challenging role because the role basically just demands her to kind of like just completely change on a dime, where 1 second she's being very cutesy, she's being very kind of like lovey-dovey, and the next thing she's being very loud, she's being very erratic, and she just kind of like has to constantly just keep on flicking and changing just on a dime, and it is just fantastic. It is just I really struggle to kind of like really articulate kind of like just what a revelation it is. Just everything from her facial expressions to just her movements, and just everything just seems so unsettling. I think that, what I really appreciate about this movie is just kind of like how layered it is. That we basically have this real kind of like meditation on this sort of very toxic and codependent relationship, but it kind of like is so deep and so multi-layered. In some ways, it reminded me a little bit of it kind of like came across to me like the movie that Together what that should have been, because that was a movie that came out quite recently as well. That was another horror that was really kind of focused on codependent relationships, and I thought that movie was okay, but I thought it was very surface level, and I thought the symbolism was very kind of like on the nose, and I couldn't really put into words what more I was wanting from that movie, but I just knew I wanted more, and I think this movie just delivered that. I think it just had so many multi layers to it. I think that it really went into kind of like captured the complexities. And I think it really captured the how the nuances of it, how it's sort of in a toxic relationship. Sometimes the toxicity of that is kind of like amplified by the fact that you can get out of it. I think that it really it really kind of like of a way that it unfolds and the way that it's directed is just kind of like it really kind of brings itself in line with the subject matter that it's dealing with, in the sense of how it kind of like has you questioning your own kind of perception and how disarming it is, and how much it kind of like captures that kind of like almost kind of like gaslighting kind of like element, and it really kind of like just kind of puts the audience like really into that mindset, and it just really does such a good job in just bringing the audience in, and it's just so chaotic and so unsettling right from kind of like start to finish, and it just does not let go. And there are so many scenes in this that are just will just linger in the memory. I think that Cody Barker did the editing of this as well, which is another real prop that needs to go to him. I was just because this is like his first feature length, this is like his directional debut. And because he's come from like a YouTube background as well, that is obviously so inspirational as well, to obviously like a lot of people. So yeah, basically it's, we have a new horror movie and a new director that has kind of like entered this chat because the way that this is edited as well is so perfect, where it's just like edited in a way where every time the movie intends to hit you, it hits, and it is just it really is just so well done. And I think that it's one of those where I will kind of like look forward to seeing a second time, because I think that obviously because it's so multi-layered, it's sort of because there's so many contrasting analogies that you can make, which I really want to get into in my spoiler video, then it's sort of it's one of those movies where you feel like you could really kind of like notice something new every time, and it just kind of like deepens. Like I said, that was just I just really appreciate just how effective, how masterfully crafted this piece is. And yeah, Gary Barker, he is just shown that he is now just one to watch. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up my my review for Obsession for now. I feel like I probably already even said too much, because yeah, I think that the more blind you are going into this, the better I think it will be. But yeah, like I said, I will absolutely urge you guys to go out and watch this film, because it is. Yeah, it is such a masterfully crafted horror movie, and yeah, it's not always often that I can say that. So yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please feel free to let me know then in the comment section about what your own, if you have seen Obsession yet, and what your own thoughts are. Obviously, in keeping with this video, try and kind of like keep the comments as kind of like broad as possible, or if you are going to get into like spoiler specifics, kind of like put a disclaimer up. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, then yeah, basically just let me know you looking to go and see it, and all of that stuff, let me know then in the comment section. And as always, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.